Well, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome. We have a lot of folks still filing in as we are getting started with our webinar. My name is Kathy Hawkins, and I'm just delighted to have all of you joining us from all over, it looks like. This is the fourth of our five-part Creative Care Fall Festival series. And again, welcome. We hope that today is going to be as inspiring to you as it has been to us. And what we're going to do is just get engaged. Andrew Morton, who is an award-winning playwright and theater maker, is based in Detroit. And in addition to working for TimeSlips, he works as a teaching artist and a facilitator with a wide variety of social service and arts organizations. And he was recently named a 2020 Kresge Artist Fellow. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you everyone else for joining us today. I'm very excited to be with you all in this virtual space to tell you more about this amazing new project. For those of you that have maybe joined one of our previous webinars as part of this Creative Care Fall Festival, you may have done this before, but we'd like to kick things off with a beautiful question. If you're familiar with TimeSlips in our work, you'll know what a beautiful question is. But if you are new to our work and new to beautiful questions, a beautiful question is simply an open-ended question that has no right or wrong answer. And you can answer this in any way that you would like. As we're here today to talk about engagement parties, our question is themed. And so our question for today is, how do you celebrate a special occasion? And Kathy, I believe we're going to ask you to put your responses in the chat. And I think the first two people that get their responses in will be recipients of a little bit of TimeSlips swag. So please go ahead and drop your responses into the chat there, and we'll kind of come back to this theme a little bit later on today as well. So again, this webinar is to launch our brand new TimeSlips Engagement Parties program. So we're here to get engaged, and we'll talk a little bit more about the meaning of the name of this project later on. But to begin with, again, I just want to welcome everyone for joining us wherever you are coming from in the world. We're also going to begin, like we have our previous webinars as part of this festival, with a land acknowledgement. So I'm speaking from Detroit, Michigan, and I acknowledge that here in Detroit, we are on the traditional lands and territory of the Anishinaabe people, also known as the Three Fires of the Confederacy, comprising the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. The forced removal of Indigenous people from these lands is a history that must be acknowledged, along with the current struggles of all Indigenous people. Thank you. So what we're going to do together in this hour that we have together is to learn a little bit more about this new TimeSlips program, the engagement parties. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the program itself is, but also tell you about the history and development of this project and how we developed it here with a great group of partners and friends here in Southeast Michigan. You'll get to hear me speak for the first part of the webinar, but I'm more excited to introduce you to some special guests, several recent engagement party attendees who experience engagement parties in different ways and are going to be able to share with us a little bit about the experience for themselves and how they've perhaps been using the techniques that they learned since, or thinking about ways that they can use the experience as part of their professional work or personal lives as well. And then finally, we'll get a chance to explore the new resources that we've developed, including the Engagement Party program, but also some additional resources that we have created especially for friends and family caregivers. For anybody who's joining us who is maybe new to TimeSlips and new to our organization and our work, we just want to give you a little bit of a context so you understand a little bit more about where we're coming from. So for 20 years, TimeSlips has taught care partners to replace the pressure to remember with the freedom to imagine, bringing meaning and purpose into the lives of elders through creative engagement. We do this by offering hundreds of prompts and online tools on our website to encourage people to practice creative storytelling and other engaging activities for people of all ages and abilities. And by doing this, we harness the power of imagination to change the way the world understands aging and dementia. But what exactly is a TimeSlips engagement party? Well, first of all, it is a very intentional sort of play on that phrase, engagement party. While these are not gatherings to celebrate the engagement of a couple to be wed, although I suppose that they could be if if that was an occasion and you wanted to combine it with a TimeSlips engagement party as well. But this program is really focusing on that word engagement in terms of the creative engagement that we do at TimeSlips so well. So we describe these gatherings as informal and joyful gatherings for anyone who wants to learn how to creatively engage with a friend, family member, or neighbor who might be lonely, frail, or experiencing memory loss. And at these engagement party sessions, guests will learn simple creative engagement techniques that can create shared moments of imagination, again, with no right or wrong answers. We've been developing this program now in Southeast Michigan over the last couple of years. And so as I continue to tell you a little bit more about the development process, I'm also going to just share with you a few testimonials of people who've already experienced an engagement party, so you can hear about some of the things that people have said after the experience. So the first testimonial that you see on the screen here is from a caregiver who said, "It gave me some practical ideas of how to turn a question that my husband gives into a way for him to start being creative himself, instead of feeling sad because he couldn't remember something." So why are these engagement parties important, and why did we develop this new resource at this time? Well, many of you already know that more older adults than ever before live alone, and across the world, dementia is becoming a new normal. Many of us already also know about the significant health impact that social isolation can have on one's health. And we've all experienced this last year, an increase in social isolation due to COVID-19. So during the process of developing this project, we've also been thinking about different ways that we can include more information to really help anybody who wants to find new ways to connect and communicate from a distance, provide resources and guidance on how to do that. And so at an engagement party, guests are invited to what we at TimeSlips call the creative care revolution, helping to end the isolation and loneliness that can wrap itself around those in late life or those experiencing dementia. Another caregiver told us after attending an engagement party that this can be a very lonely life. And now I know of some other ways to engage with my husband. So we created engagement parties really for anyone who wants to attend, and they're intended to be fun and hopefully joyful for anyone. But we do think they will be particularly helpful to engage with those who might be underconnected, experience an increase in isolation, or living with dementia. Engagement parties are also perfect for caregivers, family and friends of people living with memory loss who might not know often what to do or say when engaging with that person. We also think they'll be helpful for professionals and students, and really anyone who wants to bring joy and meaning into the lives of older adults. Through these sessions too, we've also found that they can be a really positive way to involve young people in positive and playful relationships with elders. And you'll get to hear a little glimpse of how some people have been able to do that a little bit later on in our program too. Another testimonial from a recent engagement party attendee. The engagement party also has a focus on really trying to help all of us understand that creativity is an innate human characteristic, and whether or not we consider ourselves to be creative beings or artists, we try to encourage people to really recognize their own creative abilities and show them that however you define creativity yourself or ways that you are creative in your own life, you can use that as part of creative engagement. And so again, another testimonial to show that. A guest said that when we got started, we really didn't understand what the word creative meant. But as we got into it, we had a better understanding that we can all be creative. And that's something that we hope everyone will take away from an engagement party, that no matter who you are or where you come from, your ability, we all have the ability to be creative. So as I've said already, we've been developing this program primarily here in Southeast Michigan, and we've been able to do that with the collaboration of some wonderful partners on the ground here. So I do want to say a massive thank you to our friends at the Greater Michigan chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, our friends at the Institute of Gerontology at Wayne State University, and also our friends at Lafayette American. Lafayette American is a design and creative agency here in Detroit who we partnered with to help us create the design and the look and feel of these resources. And so a value of this project from the very beginning was to really think about the importance of beautifully designed products and resources, and recognizing that while there are some incredible resources out there in the world already for caregivers and people living with dementia, perhaps some of those resources, while the content may be great, visually it's not always the most exciting to look at, or you may look at something and it may not really attract your eye, and you may not want to necessarily pick up that book or that resource and engage with it. So we really wanted to make sure that these resources were beautifully designed, and also acknowledge that everybody, regardless of their age or ability, is deserving of beautifully designed resources and products. You'll get a chance to get a glimpse of these products a little bit later on today too. I also want to make sure that we thank our funder for this project, the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, who allowed us to develop this process over the last few years. And we're really excited at this point that now that we have the products ready to go, we can share them with a much wider audience than just here in Michigan. The process itself of developing this program is that since the end of 2018 into this year, we've been doing in-person and virtual focus groups. Most of those have happened in Southeast Michigan, but we also had a couple in Milwaukee as well. And unlike many people early this year, when we had to make a switch to mostly virtual gatherings, we used that as an opportunity to switch the remaining focus groups that we were doing to trial and test out this program to virtual gatherings. So we continue to do that with groups here in Southeast Michigan. We also had a wonderful opportunity to share this with some partners in Oregon as well. So we did that through May and August of this year. And throughout this process, we've been able to reach over 200 family and friend caregivers, professionals, and volunteers as well. So that's the background of this project and how it came to be. Now I'm really excited to ask a few special guests to join me on screen so that we can hear a little bit more about the various people who've been attending these engagement parties in the as we have developed them over the last few months. So each person's going to get a chance to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit more about their connection to the work and how they've been perhaps using the technique since, or how they're hoping to use these techniques as part of their work moving forward. So I'm really excited to welcome Trina and Teresa and Mindy and Sandy to the session. So if you want to, I can see Teresa and Trina already. Mindy and Sandy, if you want to turn on your cameras as well, that'd be great so we can see you. Thank you so much. Again, I'm really excited to sort of pass things over to our guests here so that you can all hear a little bit more about their individual experience of the program. They're each coming at this work from different perspectives, but I'm so excited to hear what they have to say. So we're going to start with Trina, who before Trina begins, I also want to acknowledge Trina was one of our partners working at the Alzheimer's Association. And we really could not have created these projects, these resources, without the support of Trina and her colleagues at the Alzheimer's Association. Also, in that strange moment where we pivoted to virtual gatherings, I know Trina was also doing that at the same time. So I'm so excited that Trina could join us to tell us a little bit more about her experience of this program and how it's been serving the population that she works with. So, Trina, I'll let you begin.
Andrew, thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this special launch today. And I'm one of the program coordinators in the Metro Detroit area for the Alzheimer's Association, and I oversee our support groups. And I also have worked with our early stage support groups, as well as the social club, the early stage social club. So I just want to just a little bit about each of those groups and how Andrew and I were able to work together with these groups. The early stage support group consists of caregivers and those who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and other related dementias. It was amazing to experience this with the caregivers and those who have been diagnosed. We started with the caregivers and met with them separately and just kind of explained this, this program and the process, and to get their feedback and their opinions. And they actually were very influential with the kit that was put together, and Andrew will talk more about that kit later. But there was some skepticism at first with the caregivers, feeling that they would not be able to use this exercise at home with their person. They just felt like, oh, this sounds great, but I don't think that it'll work at home. And as we began to explain more of how this worked, we then brought them together with their person in one room and just started the exercise. And so Andrew, he just started by creating a story. We created a story based on a picture that was shown. And it was just amazing to see some of the comments and creating a story from just a picture, and how there were different aspects and what each person saw was different. So even for those people who normally may not be able to engage in a conversation, or they're maybe not able to complete a conversation, but this brought them alive. If you're showing a picture of maybe just someone on a beach, just how they were able to share their different aspects of that story. So I was just amazed at what was coming from their responses. The other group that we worked with was the Adult Day Program. We had 2 adult day programs in our at the Alzheimer's Association, and these people were more advanced, where they were really having difficulty carrying a conversation, and some of them were not speaking at all. Or maybe they were just making sounds. And so to hear them come alive with the stories that they were creating, just by us asking them certain questions, they were able to create a full story. And I think that Andrew's going to be sharing some of those stories later. It was just awesome to see that even if they normally weren't speaking, they were saying exactly what they felt. And some of them were just making sounds. We might ask them the question, how do you feel, what do you feel the ocean, how does the ocean sound to you? And they were able to express it that way, whereas they may not have been able to talk. So it was just really good to see that. And I hope that Andrew maybe can share a story now about some of what we experienced in that program, so that people can get a better picture of how those stories came alive.
Thank you, Trina. And thank you again for providing us so many opportunities to engage with the various groups you work with. We're going to hear a story from one of our other panelists in a moment. But as Trina was speaking, it did remind me of one moment where as Trina described, we were meeting often with the caregivers kind of separately to go through the engagement party program and introduce them to TimeSlips. And then sometimes we have the opportunity then to gather again with the caregivers and their care partners, so they could see the techniques put into action. And one of my favorite stories from one of those sessions is where I asked the beautiful question, how do you greet someone you love? And one of the care partners of a gentleman who he had just met with very kind of gently leaned over and pulled her husband in for a kiss. And to sort of see his face light up, I think he was maybe a little bit embarrassed that it happened in front of a group of people too. But it was a wonderful moment to sort of see that in that moment, it was usually the person who was the recipient of care that was able to offer that gift to her husband and her caregiver. So I just shared that as one little sort of example of how these very simple techniques can create really wonderful and moving moments for the people that we share them with. So thank you so much, Trina. And we're going to pass things over now to Teresa, who's going to tell us a little bit more about her experience of the engagement party, which was actually very recent. So I'm really excited to hear from Teresa to hear more about her experience of the program and how I think her and her colleagues are thinking about using this program as part of their ongoing work. So thank you, Trina. We'll hand things over to Teresa.
Hello, my name is Teresa, and I'm from the Jackson District Library in Jackson, Michigan. And our program started about 3 years ago, and we had received a grant to do an outreach program with people with memory loss. And so they were looking for staff at the library to go out into the community and be able to work or tell these stories with the people with memory loss. So I signed up about 2 years ago, and right before COVID, I had 3 groups I was seeing, 2 in assisted living and 1 in advanced memory loss. And then I was supposed to pick up a 4th one. And of course, COVID hit, so that came to an end. And I've used over those past years, we had come up with some of our kids using the pictures that were on the website. So I was trained on the website, and then they had those pictures available to us and those questions that went right along with the pictures. We'd print them, I'd print the questions, and then I would go in, and generally my sessions were about an hour, and I could get 2 to 3 pictures in, depending on how much they wanted to talk, how long they wanted to talk about other things, or if we just spent time chatting and visiting. So every time I went into a different group, I let them guide me. I let them kind of just go with the flow, and depending on what the sense of the group was. And as mentioned, some of the in the advanced memory loss groups, there were some times where they were all asleep. I would read to them. I would read stories. I would talk about different things for maybe even one who may have been awake. I have sung songs to them, that they would give me a book. So no matter what happened at that particular session, I was always there. I gave them my full time and worked with the staff, and it was actually so beautiful. So 2 weeks ago, one of the facilities contacted us and said, can we come back? Can you come and work with us virtually? So first session, I spent about 3 minutes with them because we had technical difficulties. But then I got to meet with them again. They had 3 people social distance in a room, and I had printed pictures. I had sent them to the facility. I had the questions, and we filled a full hour talking about pictures. And then this week I had 2 different ladies who were not in the mood to talk very much. So they talked to me, and we did about a half hour together, but it was still nice to see them. It was still nice that they got to see me. And one of the care facility staff, she helped me tremendously, because it's hard to hear a lot of times when somebody's quiet anyway, but then trying to get them to talk into, like a microphone on a computer. So we've worked it out, and it's been fantastic. So one of the things that having these new kits, the engagement parties, we can use and go further with that. There has been a call out to the whole JDL staff asking if other people want to get on board with TimeSlips. They can get trained. We can go, we've had another facility ask us, can you come and do TimeSlips with us? They specifically asked when COVID was over, when we can go back in. I do think the virtual is a little difficult for some organizations, but we're looking forward to expanding what we have off the site and using the kit to go beyond what we've currently been doing. And I have a mother-in-law who's 90 and a father-in-law who's 95. And he is in advanced stages of dementia, and she's starting to go downhill a little bit. And I'm planning on using that with her to see if we can get her more engaged as her memory gets worse. So I plan to apply it even within my own family. And my dad had been diagnosed in 2000 with Alzheimer's. He passed away in 2004. So I saw that decline with him. And had I known about this back then, I certainly would have used it. So that's my story.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And I know that I think we have quite a few people joining us on this webinar, also coming to this from a librarian perspective. And I know that as we start to roll this program out and make these resources more available, we're really interested in talking to librarians and library communities about how these resources could better support the work that you do. I know both Teresa and Trina have mentioned the kit as well now, which I will give you a glimpse of a little bit later on in today's program. But at the same time that we've been developing this engagement party program, we were also developing a new resource that is really a companion to this program, which is called the Creative Care Imagination Kit. So while the engagement party program itself is is sort of providing resources for folks like Trina and Teresa to share creative engagement with people in their lives, whether that's colleagues or community members or friends or family members. The kit is a physical resource that includes image prompts and beautiful questions that you could then use as a way to provide that as a physical resource to people to encourage them to try creative engagement in their own lives. So thank you for mentioning that. And again, that program is, we're waiting till next year until that resource will be out into the world, but we will be able to get a sneak glimpse at the product a little bit later on today too. So thank you so much, Teresa.
You're welcome.
Now we're going to pass things over to Mindy, who, again, I'm so grateful that Mindy could join us today. Mindy's going to talk a little bit about the experience of her experience of the program, and we also have a video of Mindy's mom that we will share in a moment too, so you can hear about her experiences of the program as well. So thank you, Mindy.
Thank you, Andrew. It's great to hear how everybody is using this and the impacts and everything. I'm a little bit different. I'm not in Michigan right now. I'm originally from there, and I've just left a job at the University of Michigan. But I'm out in California. My name is Mindy Mattice. I'm currently working with a nonprofit organization, the Global Brain Health Initiative, or GBHI, which has been funded to change the role of dementia and Alzheimer's disease in communities all over the world until a cure can be found. I'm working at UCSF's Memory and Aging Center, and we work in partnership with Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. Fellows attending this year-long program are from locations worldwide. The goals at GBHI are to work on reducing the burdens of dementia and Alzheimer's in regions from Latin America to Europe to Africa, and of course, North America as well. We're working to do this by developing research, but also better management, treatment, and care for those who are suffering from neurodegenerative diseases. The fellows who come to the program have backgrounds in geriatrics and neurology, public policy, health economics, clinicians and nurses, but also the arts, including music, dance, visual artists, and performers. Anne Bastings, who's one of the thinkers behind all of TimeSlips, gave us a talk last year. And what was interesting is that some of the fellows doing some of the most interesting work within the program have been associated with her work. So I became intrigued with all of this and found TimeSlips. It's just, for me, it's really wonderful to see how her work and the work of TimeSlips and the use of creativity with our elders who are struggling with memory loss and dementia is creating a new framework. It's wonderful to realize that the baseline premise of this work is founded upon the belief that our elders, even those who may be struggling with neurodegenerative diseases, are individuals who can still engage, be inspired, continue to grow and develop, because so much of how our elders are approached, and I think here we tend to do it even more so than other countries in the West, but especially those struggling with neurodegeneratives they're just not approached with these positive frameworks. So this is really nice. I wanted to roll up my sleeves and get involved, so I attended an engagement party when I was in Michigan. I did it at my mom's house because I wanted to have this hands-on learning and try out techniques myself. Already I've seen how these questions and the things that I learned can impact interactions with elders that are struggling with memory loss, and flip the discussions into meaningful moments or conversations or time together that we can break out into song. They can break out into song or become really hopeful or positive in ways just by working through things. So, but essentially, because I'm not in care and management as much, I just look forward to connecting more of our fellows in our program with this meaningful work. And I can now talk with them more about it. As I've said, we have fellows who worked with the group before. We have others, including one fellow who's in Africa, who's trained to do this work and is bringing the work back into Ethiopia and other regions of Africa. And I hope to help many other fellows connect with this program because I've seen in person how important this work can be. Thanks.
Thank you, Mindy. Before I show this wonderful video of your mom, is there anything else you'd like to share with our guests about your mom and
Well, my mom is currently, she's 91, and she's taking care of her 84-year-old sister who has dementia, some vascular dementia, but she also is taking care of a lifelong friend, well, one of many people taking care of him. But so she does her stops along the way, and she's been using these techniques with different people in her neighborhood and family, and so it's really been positive for her as well. Yeah. And if she could work Zoom, she probably would have come to the panel today. She can't work it on her own.
well, we'll share her lovely video in a moment here. But I just want to add too that when I delivered the engagement party with Mindy and her mom and family members and neighbors, some of you were gathered together and some joined virtually. And I just want to say that even I know that many of us have adapted to using virtual gatherings as a way to connect. And even though I wasn't in the same room as all of you, I still had such a good time hanging out with all of you and sharing the techniques. And I just say that to say that as we're presenting this, as we're offering this resource out to the world in this uncertain time, I just want to let you know that with a little bit of creative thinking and really leaning into that TimeSlips core concept of yes and as well, you can still have these meaningful gatherings remotely, knowing that, of course, access and technological knowledge is sometimes missing in some communities. But I just say that to say that, Mindy, I had such a great time hanging out with all of you in the program. And even though I didn't meet your mom in person, I felt like, seeing her on the video and watching this video now, I felt like I really got to know her a little bit better. So I'm gonna share my screen again now and show you this short video, just to let everyone know wherever you're watching that the audio on the video is a little lower. So you might want to turn up the audio on your individual computers right now. And when I stop the video, maybe turn it down a little bit now too, so that it doesn't, when we come back, we're not, screaming at you. So here's Mindy's mom.
I enjoyed meeting Mr. Morton, and I enjoyed his presentation. It helped us to think how we can help those who have Alzheimer's or dementia. And the way it was presented, what was the most beautiful thing you've ever heard?
Or what's the most beautiful sound in the world?
The most beautiful sound you've ever heard. And we brought it up with an elderly friend of mine, and that led her to thinking about, we were talking about songs, and all of a sudden she burst out singing old songs.
And she wanted you to sing with her.
Yes, and that was fun. That was fun. We were talking about old movies and remembering things that were important to her. And the thing about sending a postcard to someone who's a shut-in or has dementia with a picture on it, and that means so much to people who look for the mail and get nothing but junk. But it's important that we think about different ways to approach these things. Thank you.
There we go. You heard mention in that video too of sending postcards. While that is not an aspect specifically of the Engagement Party program, many of you may know that TimeSlips has been encouraging folks to send postcards to people who might be isolated or perhaps isolated in care communities right now. And I know, I think recently we found out that we've sort of hit a bit of a milestone with the number of postcards that we've sent out this year. And my colleague Kathy can maybe share a little bit more about that later on if that's something you're interested in. But I hope that was helpful to hear from both Mindy and her mom about the impact of their experience of the Engagement Party. And so thank you so much, Mindy. I'm going to pass things now to our final panelist, Sandy, who I'm also really excited about what she will be able to share with us about her experience as well. So Sandy, welcome.
My introduction to TimeSlips was by Andrew at an Alzheimer's Association support group virtual meeting in March, I think it was March or April of 2020, near the beginning of the upending of our lives by the pandemic. The story making we did that day on Zoom really resonated with me, and it was fun, and I look forward to sharing the technique with my husband, who had moved to memory care 4 months prior. Surely the lockdown would not be too long. Perhaps in a few weeks, I could ask him beautiful questions and we could write stories together. Obviously, I was delusional about the duration of the pandemic. I had begun writing weekly letters to my husband, including true stories of his and our past. About the same time, our grandchildren were adapting to e-learning and to isolation from their friends. The Chicago grandkids asked if they and I could talk once a week, and into my consciousness came TimeSlips. Thus began the adventure of inviting each of our 9 grandchildren to write a story that I would send to Grandpa George and later compile into a handmade book. What an opportunity for the grandkids to do something for their grandpa, and for us, grandmother and teenagers. And here is how I did it. The evening before a telephone call, I sent the grandchild 2 or 3 photos that I chose from Google Images. The photos reflected the interest of the child, and I hoped would invoke some humor, as Grandpa George always liked to laugh. I asked the child to choose his or her favorite for our conversation the next afternoon, without cluing them in to what we would be doing. At the time of the call, I sensed hesitation, mostly quiet, when I told them I would like for us to write a story together. I assured them that there was no right or wrong way to do this. After all, we were not doing this for a grade, only for Grandpa George. I also said that they could be just as silly as they wished. It took just 1 or 2 questions to get them started, and then I could scarcely keep up keystroking while their imaginations took off into storyland. And Andrew is going to screen share 4 photos that I used, or that the children chose. These were 4 photos that were chosen by 4 of our grandchildren. And the titles of the story, which the children told me what titles were, the author and the author's age appear under each photo. The person who read all of these stories to George reported that he laughed at them all. I'm going to read the story authored by Ben, age 17 at the time of the writing, and his photo appears in the upper left. He is a computer geek. So here's what he wrote. Gung ging ging ga, monkey learn computer, masterpiece by Ben Kunkel. Gorilla 4 lived in the wild jungle. He was fortunate enough to learn how to use a computer due to the drastic improvements in monkey computing and the development of a new mining procedure. The extraction of metals from bananas made computers cheaper and more accessible. However, Gorilla 4's habitat had splotchy internet access because of the Apes Internet Access Act of 2034, signed by the United Nations in 2034. This act was passed because gorillas began using computers to look up how to get rid of humans. Gorilla 4 bought his first computer from Goodbye for 1,532 bananas, plus a tax of 11 bananas. The cashier had to peel all 1,532 bananas. Gorilla 4 first used his new computer to look up how to peel bananas from the bottom. On the way home, he passed a group of gorillas, including his neighbor Dave. The gorillas were gathered on a large tree holding signs made of bamboo and leaves. They were protesting the use of gorilla glue. One sign read, "End apeism now." Another read, "Gorilla glue is derogatory." Gorilla 4 was confused because they were all just in the jungle where no one could hear them or read their signs. He decided to bring up the issue later with his neighbor Dave when they were at the banana queue. When he walked home, he wished apes had invented cars so he could ride instead of walk. And he wondered why cars had not been invented yet. He decided he would talk to Will and Banana Gates about the possibility of building a car. The end.
Well, Sandy, the comments are already coming in about what an amazing grandma you are and how funny Ben is. And I agree. Again, I'm so grateful to all the panelists, but Sandy, when you shared with us early in the summer that you had, after attending the engagement party, you'd been inspired to do that. Everyone at TimeSlips was so overjoyed to hear that, as I think that's just a wonderful example of how to take the techniques that we offer at TimeSlips and find ways, as you shared with us, to bring in multiple generations of your family and involve your grandchildren and your husband. I know that for many of us, this year is really trying, as we're not able to see our loved ones in person as much as possible. And Sandy, I think the gifts that you've created for your husband, George, and for all of us sharing that gift with us too is a really beautiful testament to this work. So thank you so much. And I'm going to continue with the rest of the program now, but our panelists, hopefully, when we have some time for Q&A at the end of the session today, if there's any questions for any of you, you're welcome to join me back on screen then. So thank you again, panelists, and I'll see you again shortly. So now that you've heard a little bit more about the Engagement Party program itself, and you've heard a little bit of some of the other resources as well, I want to spend the next moment of our webinar just telling you a little bit more about the specific aspects of these new resources. And then you'll get a chance to get a glimpse of what these look like on our website too. And I'll share more information too about how you can access them now, as many of them are live on our website and ready to be used. So in addition to the Engagement Party materials that we've created a series of resources that are really kind of under a new sort of umbrella on the TimeSlips website for resources for friends and family members, friends and family caregivers, or perhaps friends and family members of people living with dementia or just experiencing an increase in isolation. So we have a brand new training module that lives on that on the Friends and Family subpage of the TimeSlips website. This module contains some of the same information that those of you that may have gone through some of our previous training will recognize. But we designed this one really to be a gentle introduction to TimeSlips, to tell people a little bit more about our work, how to use creative engagement in their daily lives, and then provide some concrete examples of how to do that, how to weave creativity into everyday moments, but also how to establish, as you've heard from some of our panelists, those kind of meaningful moments of connection, whether it's a phone conversation or a Zoom conversation, or when we can gather again in person, an in-person gathering. So you'll get a chance to hear a little bit more about that training in a moment. But also on the Friends and Family section of the website, we have resources that you can download to host an engagement party of your own. So we have a facilitator and host guide that provides you with some background and context on the program, and so a kind of step-by-step guide of how to present this program to friends or family of your own, colleagues or community members. There's a guest handout as well that you can print to provide to your guests, that they can answer questions in, they can take notes, they can write down the story that you create together. And there's also a customizable invitation and post-it template. So all these documents you can download as PDFs and you can print off, and you can use them to host an engagement party of your own, whether that's an in-person gathering or virtual. Excuse me. So as I mentioned, that training, TimeSlips for Friends and Family lives on the TimeSlips Friends and Family subpage. We encourage people to, whether if you already know about TimeSlips, to maybe watch this training again, and also think about it as something that you could share with somebody who might be relatively new to our work, might be new to the world of caregiving or dementia, and think of it as a resource that you could share to help them learn more about our work. Those materials, the engagement party materials that I mentioned, you have a little glimpse of them here. So there's that invitation template that you can download. You could write the additional information in that white box there, or you could edit it on the documents if you are a little bit more tech savvy. There's the guest handouts as well, and a little glimpse of the facilitator and host guide. The facilitator and host guide, I want to point out, especially for anyone who might be feeling a little bit like, this sounds like a great program, but I don't know if I'm confident enough or if I know enough about TimeSlips to share this with other people. That's why we created this, this document, so that you can see here on the screen that the page that is in the guest handout. So the example we have here is the one that says lean into your creativity. The host guide essentially has that same content, but an additional little column next to it with talking points, and it kind of provides you with things to say and activities to try. So it really kind of walks you through how to host and facilitate the event without having to feel like you're an expert in TimeSlips. So again, you can download those resources for free on our new Friends and Family subpage. For anyone who doesn't have a TimeSlips account on our website, you do have to create an account in order to access these resources, but it's very simple to do so. When you go to timeslips.org, you'll see at the top here a little prompt to sign up. So if you then follow that link, it'll take you to a new page where you can just provide a little bit of information about yourself and create a password. And so the next time that you log into the website, it'll say welcome, your name. So there it says welcome, Andrew. And then if you go into the services tab, and you'll get a drop-down menu, click on Friends and Family, and that will take you to the Friends and Family subpage. That's where you'll see a link to access the training module. And also you'll see just below that little icons to help you download those resources. They'll open in a new window as PDF documents. So again, you can save those. You could email them to people if you're planning on doing a virtual gathering, or you could print them off and provide them to folks if you are going to have an in-person gathering as well. You've also heard a little bit in the session today about the Creative Care Imagination Kit. As I mentioned, this is a companion project to the Engagement Party project, where at the same time we were developing the Engagement Party program with caregiver support groups here in Southeast Michigan, we were also testing and developing the Imagination Kit. So while again, the Engagement Party program is designed to share the techniques and encourage people to share those techniques for creative engagement with other people in their lives, the kit is a physical resource that you can think about as a companion to the engagement parties, where it would make a wonderful gift for somebody who maybe needs a little bit more encouragement to try creative engagement in their lives. We're also hoping that it will be something that will be featured in libraries, care communities, so that anybody who needs a little bit of extra support or guidance on how to use creative engagement could take the kit. It will provide instructions inside the kit as well of how to do creative engagements. It will have image prompts to do some creative storytelling together, beautiful question cards as well, with some additional suggestions on how to have kind of creative moments together, and a journal as well, so that you can record some of the stories that you've created together, just like how Sandy did with her grandchildren as well. So that will be coming out next year in June 2020, so keep your eye out for that. And we're really excited and grateful to the folks at HarperCollins who will be producing that resource. It was also designed by our friends at Lafayette American. So again, another example of how we wanted these resources to be really beautifully designed. And again, we're so excited to share them with everyone next year. So before we open to questions, I just want to sort of close this section of the webinar by letting you know some simple things that you can do next to take advantage of these resources. Again, I know that this is going to be a really trying time for many of us over the holidays, as we're not able to gather as much in person as we might usually do so. But if you are gathering with small family members, small gatherings of family members or friends, you might consider hosting an engagement party with them, or perhaps try a virtual gathering as well. You could also share the friends and family training with someone who might not know about TimeSlips. But a really simple thing that you can do is to perhaps reach out to an isolated friend or family member, either by telephone or post like we heard about earlier, and maybe ask them a beautiful question. As we get into the Thanksgiving period, a great question might be to ask, what are you thankful for? So again, we just offer you some simple action steps of what you can do next. And if you want to learn more about the specific resources that we've created for friends and family, you can find that Friends and Family subpage there at timeslips.org/services/friends and family. And you're always welcome to email me at andrew@timeslips.org with any questions about these resources as well. So that wraps up the more formal part of the presentation, but I'm really glad that we have a few more minutes to open the floor to any questions. And you're also welcome to ask questions to any of our panelists as well. So Mindy, Trina, Sandy, and Teresa, if you want to join me back on screen now, you're certainly welcome to do so.
So Andrew, we had a first question that if individuals want to hold a TimeSlips engagement party, do they need to contact you or TimeSlips, or are they able to go ahead and set one up with a partner organization with whom they are already working?
Great question. We've designed the resources to really let you take advantage of them and share them with whoever you would like. So as long as you have an account on the TimeSlips website, you'll be able to access those resources. And so then you can download those resources, the facilitator guide, the guest handout, and the posted templates to use to host your own party. The training as well, the friends and family training, is it's a great thing to think about. If might be great to watch that first to give you a little bit more confidence about how to then share what you learned in that training with other people. But the resources are there for people to use, and we invite you to do so. And also let us know where you plan on hosting an engagement party and with what communities you plan to share that information.
Wonderful. The second question that we had was, I wonder if there are tips to help folks participate without overwhelming them. Is it an involvement of a caregiver a must for these engagement parties? Thanks for what you're doing. This is all really great.
Thank you too. No, the involvement of a caregiver is not essential to having an engagement party. Again, while this project really began thinking about providing additional resources to support caregivers of people living with memory loss, we found during the development of these that really they can be valuable for anyone. I know Teresa, I've had some conversations with her and her colleagues in the Jackson Library District about how might engagement party be a wonderful way to simply provide staff members with a little bit more tools, perhaps, to use to maybe engage with someone who comes in the library who might be very lonely and underconnected. So while again we think that the resources will be really great for people caring for someone living with memory loss, those aren't the only people that can use the resources. And the program itself, we tried to include as much content as we could without it feeling overwhelming. And we know that everybody approaching the work might be coming at it from a different place. The beautiful questions might be one simple way that somebody can find a way to use the techniques that perhaps might not be as overwhelming. Other people might find that the creative storytelling techniques are great as well. There really isn't a one size fits all. We hope that the program will provide the basic knowledge of how to use these techniques so that people can take from that what they want.
Excellent. So the next question that we had was, an individual is wondering about where they are working, that the library that they serve obviously is closed right now, and wondering, since it doesn't have the ability for virtual visits, how to go about contacting them, or should they contact them, and what to do since they're not using images from TimeSlips. Is that a consideration?
Teresa, would you like to offer anything there about, again, things that you've been doing with the library to meet this time?
Well, when I started going virtual again, I found some pictures. Actually, I used some of my family. And then I had recently, I usually do themes. So I was using seasonal fall and that sort of thing, but also being able to get on the site. Through our library right now, I am the only person who is doing the virtual program, but we're hoping when we do open up, we are trying really hard to get out the word in our communities, what we have available. And this would be something we could share, especially there are a lot of people who are lonely out there, and we are sharing this with them if they have someone at home. That is really one of our big things. We are open, very limited service, but people can still come in and talk to us. So yeah, I've been using a lot of my own personal, I saw that question that I have used my own family, especially children and animals, because people tend to love those the best. And colored and black and white, both of them work as well.
Yeah. And I see that Anne beat me to it by putting in the chat that if you're not familiar, on the TimeSlips website, we have hundreds of images that we have used in previous storytelling sessions. So that might be a great place to start, to maybe give you a little bit of an idea of the types of images that we encourage folks to use. I too have had a lot of success using images with animals and children as well. So I think that's a great place to start.
So we had a request for more examples of the stories that Trina and Teresa created with people in their groups.
Well, Teresa, I can go first if you like.
You go right ahead.
Well, I would give an example about our adult day program, and I just want to say that most of them in that group were middle to late stages of Alzheimer's. So we showed a picture and we asked questions so that we could get them to talk. So we might ask, where do you think this picture takes place? What time period? What season do you feel that it is? You know, what name do you want to give your story? And whatever comments they would give, we would put that into one story. So that was exciting to bring together one story out of all of their statements. So for instance, I was thinking of a woman who said, her dress is too short. You know, and I thought that was really awesome. And we put that in the story as well. Well, it looks like her dress was too short for this occasion, and we just went from there. So whatever it is that they wanted to say, that would go into the story to create that one piece. I hope that answers the question, but.
And I was basically going to say very similar, the same type of thing. You start with a question, usually what's happening here? And if they're people, would you like to name them? What are their ages? Do they have other family? Do they have pets? So you're building a story surrounding just this last one I used was a mom and a baby in a stroller. And we came up with a beautiful story about this picture. And one of my groups loved to sing. So we would sing a lot, and I would put those in the stories too as well, and just add whatever their motions, if the sounds they make. So you really can develop it and make it what you want, as short or as long as the story is.
Wonderful, wonderful examples. We are at 3 o'clock. We'll do 2 more questions, and then the ones that we don't get to this afternoon, that we will make sure that we send something, because we have a lot of wonderful engaged questions from the group. There was a comment to know if there could be follow-up information and impact data at some time on the number of people and the types of quotes and just general results from the engagement parties.
Yeah, great question. As this project is still relatively new, and up until now, we've primarily only been having these sessions with groups mostly in Southeast Michigan and just a couple a little further afield. We're hoping to be able to start to measure that in the sort of next phase of this work. And so I also want to say too that when, if you do go onto our Friends and Family website and complete the training, the Friends and Family training, there's a little sort of questionnaire after that and survey. So that's going to help us start to gather a little bit more information about who is accessing this training and how they heard about it. But please do keep in touch and stay tuned as we start to spread this program out to as a much wider field. We hope to be able to start to kind of collect that information and data and to be able to share that with the field in the future.
Thank you, Andrew. And then the last comment was, or question, excuse me, was how can I use TimeSlips with people in a care home with a deep dementia state?
That's a great question. Again, we hope that the resources in both the Friends and Family training and the engagement party will provide that sort of first sort of introduction to TimeSlips and our techniques. And myself doing very many of these sessions with different groups, I've met many different people at various different sort of points in their caregiving journey, and the people that they're caring for are in varied sort of different degrees as well of their diagnosis. I know Trina has spoken to this as well, is that many times, even if we're trying to connect with someone who we feel might be beyond words or very rarely communicates, we often find that with taking the time to really create space for these techniques, might create some moments for people to connect in other ways, whether that's gestures or sounds. I know that we have some great examples on our website too of times where people have not been able to maybe connect with words, but a simple sort of little gesture or dance that a person might be able to do, if they have that ability, is still a way to connect. And we still think about that as whatever contribution a person might be able to give us, whether that's a sentence or a sound or a movement, we can still honor that response and greet that with yes and add that to the moment of creativity that we're trying to create. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Well, as a nod to the time and just to the wonderful work being done here, we want to thank all of you for joining us. As TimeSlips is a nonprofit organization, we really love creating free resources that are going to help all of you to connect with those who you love and those who are in the community. And we'd ask that if you would consider making a donation to TimeSlips when you're looking at just end of year and the access that this provides. As such, we also have a kind of a fifth installment for our Creative Care Fall Festival. And we invite you to join us for a Facebook Live with our CEO and founder, Ann Basting, on Tuesday, December 1st at 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. We have some special guests and some really heartwarming, exciting moments to look back on 2020. So from all of us at TimeSlips to all of you, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Stay tuned as we continue with these resources and these engagement parties. And we look forward to continuing on into 2021, connecting, engaging, and inspiring hope with everybody. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.